From KPRC Local 2, this is Beyond the Headlines.
Good morning, I'm Kim Davis. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday weekend. Well, today we're checking out the latest trends in social media, how it can be helpful in your job search, building your business, or getting ready for the holidays. Social media can also be used to deliver a message to a really broad audience. For instance, just last week, New Orleans Saints tight end Jeremy Shockey responded to the idea of Cleveland Cavaliers star LeBron James playing football on his Twitter account. Shockey said, "Everyone trust me, LeBron James could not play in the NFL. ESPN is crazy to even think he could even make a practice squad. He's a 4.9 40. He's talking about how fast he does not run in the 40-yard dash. This comes on the heels of James saying he could be really good if he applied himself to the NFL instead of the NBA. Now, we won't go into the football implications of whether Shockey should even be making statements about who should or who should not play in the NFL, but the fact is the message was delivered on Twitter. As one network reporter said, for now, the web remains a digital frontier without a sheriff. My guest today will help us understand how to corral this frontier and even use it for good. Ashley Miner is the president of Medley Inc., a brand development company, and says she's actually gotten business because of her tweets. Ed Schipul is the president and CEO of Schipul Web Marketing Company, who talks about how the personal brand era is not only beneficial to individuals, but also the companies they work for. Crystal Washington is the owner of a Houston-based marketing firm, and says packaging influences perception, and it's all about who you know and who knows you. Dan Joyce is a social media strategist, news crawler, and new media addict. I love that and more. Good morning. Good morning. And thank you all for joining us. Now, I have to tell you, we did a show earlier in the year where I actually got my very first Facebook page, and I'm proud to report I have made some progress. You know, I get on there, I have some friends, and I have conversations, and I have really no idea how Twitter works. So I think I'm a pretty good test subject. So the first thing I want to do is say welcome and ask the question, Facebook versus Twitter, the big difference, because people talk about Twitter is the way that you really get a message out. How do you get people to follow you? I mean, how does that work? Anybody?
I'll take that one. Specifically, it's about increasing, your personal brand, your home brand. The easiest way to get people to follow you. There's some specifics. Big thing that keeps me from following somebody is make sure you have a bio. If somebody doesn't say where they're from, and Ed and I spoke about it earlier, have it say the city, not necessarily your longitude and latitude.
Okay.
As much as you can see throughout your tweets, it's hard to necessarily tell who somebody is just by that, because there's some of the other features in there, retweets and some of the other actions. So
it's important that people know they can see in your bio things that they may be interested in.
Absolutely.
That kind of helps them. Okay, so I get that, but that makes sense. But how do they even hook up to follow you? I mean, I know on Facebook people will say, can I be your friend? Or you'll see them as someone else's friend. And there are these conversations. But to me, Twitter is still kind of foreign as to how you even get people to get to look at your bio.
Well, if you're Ashton Kutcher, you place a big billboard up that says follower, and you have a very public campaign. But I would say first thing to get followers on Twitter is you have to be passionate about something.
Okay.
And with that, if you can express it in an entertaining way, people are naturally going to want to follow you. People follow your TV show because you bring on guests and you're passionate about the local community and you're talking about issues that are relevant to them. So Twitter is very much that way. And it also rewards, to some extent, a little introversion. And instead of saying how great you are, you spend a lot of time saying, here's a link to Kim's latest show. I enjoyed the guests. Or it's a way to pay it forward at a very low cost at the same time. And it's free. Twitter is free. So there's a lot of community there.
Let me ask another question. I had a friend ask me, she says, okay, I understand, Twitter or maybe Facebook if you have a business. But if I don't have a business, why should I care? Why should I be on Twitter? And what's the answer? What would somebody say?
Well, I would say that, Twitter can be used whether you have a business or not. And one of the things you have to keep in mind is that you're always your own brand, whether you own a business or not. And so you can actually use Twitter to find employment. You can use Twitter to keep current with other people within your industry. It's a really good way for you to stay in touch across your industry and really put yourself out there, because there might come a time where you want to move someplace else or find another position, and that's a really good way to pretty much put your brand out there, have that connection with other people.
How does that work? I mean, how do you make those things happen in terms of keeping yourself relevant on Twitter? I mean, how do you have conversations with people when you don't really know who's following you, or how to, it's like, okay, I've got to get people to want to say, yes, I'm following you, so they get my tweets. That's the first challenge. And then how do I communicate with them in these very short, brief sentences so that it's relevant to other people?
I think it goes back to Ed's point about, saying things that are passionate and interesting. For example, I may say I'm coming to talk to Kim Davis or Crystal Washington about social media, and someone could be searching for keywords such as social media and see that and say, oh wow, I'm going to follow her. Or for example, I may be talking about fashion and just really using those keywords to target that audience that you're looking to target. And like Ed said, interesting, passionate topics, and people will start following you slowly. And another way to do it is to do retweets, showing, another way to give props to people. It's just another way to pay it forward is by retweeting and saying this person is interesting because of X, Y, Z. And so I think it's all about paying it forward.
So that means that when you leave, you'll all say, yeah. Okay.
Well, Dan did it before we got here. We did it right here, yeah. So we're already on that road.
Wow. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and talking about building your personal brand and how it can help you and the people you work for. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're talking about social media, internet marketing, and all that kind of stuff. And so we were talking about Twitter and how you use it and how you make it work before you went to the break. And, I'm getting there. It makes a little more sense. But one of the things, as we talk about Twitter, Ed, you did a blog about your personal brand. And sometimes people think when you say personal brand, I have to be careful because, I have a job and my company wants to make sure I'm committed to their mission and what they're doing, and you said it's not either or. They work together.
It's not either or, and there's a fear that it is. And when we talk about personal brand, it's how people perceive of you. So it's not necessarily the full you, but it's the perception. And you're going to manage that through Facebook and through Twitter and through LinkedIn and through Flickr, and those are reflecting back on you. But the truth is it also reflects back positively or negatively on the company if you have a bad personal brand. But what we found at our firm, and we're small, we've got 28 employees, is it reflects back in a way and it drives traffic in a way that it attracts the best employees and it attracts trusted clients who have already advanced in the relationship, because business is still relationships. And all we've done is we've done some of those relationships online with social media.
It's interesting because obviously in our business, in media and television and broadcasting, our company wants us to be involved because the more you connect with the audience, the community, the better it is for the station. But I would imagine other companies may struggle with how does that help me if I'm company B and I'm not a media type company, so it's not about building an audience, but you're saying an audience could be an audience for some clients.
Your observation's right. Is athletes and media companies already, you're known, you're Kim Davis, and there's a brand that's already there.
You're very kind.
Well, and the station benefits as you benefit. And so what's happening is that business model is being pushed out into other industries as varied as steel manufacturers, where you're literally going to have the world's most famous metallurgist. It's going to be niche, but our brains are looking for people to fill those brands, and those folks are out there, and so now there's this low-cost, cheap, easy, free way to express yourself.
Do you think people are getting it more? I mean, do you find people are connecting more and taking advantage of there's an opportunity? Because I think more people are beginning to see this medium as an opportunity, but I think a lot of people still aren't.
Well, I think that you're definitely seeing growth. I think it was Nielsen early this year where they basically revealed a study that said I think 67% of all internet users are now on social media. There's constant growth. So you're starting to see people embrace it a little bit more. And I think that perception that this is something for teenagers is going out the window, because when you look at things like Twitter, the average Twitter user is in their 30s.
Really?
Like early 30s. So, you have to start realizing that there's some real opportunities here, whether it be for business, even personally, in terms of saving money on different things. There's just so much you can do on social media. I think it's just a matter of people getting over that initial fear and realizing that you can manage your image on there. You don't have to let everything out. You see examples. I think people get scared because they see examples of people that put out too much.
Right, and lose their job.
Right.
And they didn't make a wise choice.
And there's things that you can do even on Facebook where other people can't tag you in photos, where all these different applications are not accessible to people. So there's things you can do to open yourself up a little bit. But just like when you're walking down the street, you don't yell out everything that's going on with you.
Like someone asked me for a recipe on Facebook. I didn't give it, nothing personal, but You know, I'm a cook. I'm kind of proud of my culinary skills. So, yeah, not on Facebook. But I do think
subversive, a little fake recipe.
No, then that'd be misleading. You know, I have integrity. You know, I have integrity, and so I don't want to be misleading. I just won't give it to you.
Okay.
So, you know, Dan, you call yourself a new media addict. What does that mean?
Well, specifically, I was one of the early adopters of Twitter. I've been using the service for almost 3 years since it first came out. Been using Facebook since prior to when it was only available for college students.
What have you found most beneficial? What is it that draws you?
It's a great way to stay in touch with my community, to meet new people. Like we talked about, personal brands, to promote your personal brand. I also have a music blog that it allows me to reach out to the community and express some of the things that are going on there to help local artists and support them as well.
You have a lot of people following you. I went there and I said, wow, you have a lot. And so I guess these things you do, this passion that you guys spoke of, is what draws people to your Twitter page.
Sure. If you find a niche that people are also something that they also want to buy in on, and it's something that you talk about, and if it could be just one thing. I talk about music, I talk about politics, I talk about all kinds of different things on my Facebook and Twitter feed. So it draws people of various different communities in.
Okay. So when we come back, I'm going to ask you, Ashley, you mentioned about getting business from some of your tweets, and what kind of tweets those are, because I've had people email me and say, how does that work? So we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and talk about the whole job search and building your business online. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're talking about social media, and as Ed said in the break, it's not in a vacuum, right? It's kind of everywhere, and you don't always have to be in person to be engaged with people, which is one of the benefits of this medium. And Ashley, we talked before, and you said that you have actually gotten business from being online, from your tweets. And so is it because you're saying to people, I have this business and I can help you, or is it things you talk about that make people want to connect with you?
It's just things that I talk about. I think the worst thing to do on social media is to approach it from a marketing perspective.
Okay.
So instead of saying, I'm offering a special this month, I'm going to say, I'm meeting with my clients. I love my clients. My clients are offering this month, or I'm working on a social media seminar with one of my close friends. And so people pay attention to those types of things, and it just leads to lots of new opportunities. For example, last time we were here, Ed was here, and we were talking about the Build White for Texas campaign, and then we started talking about a training that we were doing, a social media training, and then that turned into an opportunity for me, and it just kind of had a spiral effect. And then I met Dan, but it's just making these connections through social media in casual conversation.
Not so in your face.
Not so in your face. I think that's because people don't get on Facebook to buy stuff necessarily, but at the end of the day they do in some cases. But I definitely don't think it's in anyone's favor to have a very aggressive marketing approach. Just talk casually about what your passions are.
And that's probably a lot easier. I think when some people think about Facebook or Twitter, they think I've got to have a campaign, and you're saying just as you would talk as we're speaking now,
exactly.
Do that on these sites. You mentioned something earlier that I wanted to ask about at Flickr.
Flickr is a photo sharing website, so it's similar to what YouTube is to video, Flickr is to photography.
Okay.
And it is actually the first social media site that really got me, because people on Flickr are really, really friendly. There is a guy in the Houston community named Jeff Balke. I know him now, but 2 years ago I had a question. The guy wrote a two-page email on how to take low-light photography. And I subsequently met him, and I learned who Jeff Balke was. Phenomenally nice guy. Completely met him online, even though he's from the city. So
you said before the break, Crystal, that the average or the median age on Twitter is 30. I thought that was interesting, because I was speaking with a friend last week who said, Facebook is for more mature people and Twitter is for younger people because they don't want to be on Facebook because their parents are there. True, false? Is that what you find?
No, I mean, it's a really good mix, but overall, unless you're looking at social networks like MySpace, which really is pretty much primarily for tweens, there's a really good mix of people on there. I just think that I don't know why that perception's there. Honestly, I haven't figured it out yet, but it's there, and it's up to us that are a little bit older to, just really go out there.
The word we use is seasoned, not older.
Seasoned. But I think it's just a matter of people getting over that fear of not understanding it. And then I think a lot of times when you don't understand something, if you don't see the immediate value in it, you just kind of set it aside. But there really is value to being on those. I mean, even talking about Ashley, we met through social media originally, because people were connected to both of us and kept saying, oh, you two should meet. And I know, just like Ashley, I get quite a bit of business from Facebook and LinkedIn specifically. So there's so many different things you can do on these social networks, but you just need to be open to it and just take a little bit of time to get on there. Right. And there's no right or wrong. You know, just kind of research a little bit.
I think the key thing is just to use good common sense.
Right.
Yeah.
As you should do anyway. And to be smart. Is there anything new on the horizon? I mean, I think we've heard about these for a little bit, and now people are starting to get somewhat familiar, or at least are looking at them. Is there something new coming up, or are these things going to be around and good tools for a while?
I think they're going to be around for a while. I think Facebook is one, so if you have to choose one service to play with, start with Facebook. Twitter is a little bit more performance art, and there's more subtleties to it, but what's next, I strongly believe, is going to be the personal brand era, and I think we actually don't even really have software to fully express all of this. But if I joined your TV station, why can I not say what production equipment I have experience with or I don't? And we haven't really even thought these things through, and that leads to another point, which is we need to cut ourselves some slack. We're about 15 years into a new technology. It takes about 25 years to adopt the car. So we have another 10 years to go, and we all need to be just a lot easier on ourselves. Don't feel like if you're not up to speed now that you've missed the train.
Sure, that takes the pressure off.
It should. It really should. It's going to be okay.
But the next time we get together, and even sooner than that, I will have mastered this Twitter thing, I tell you. I'm going to get there. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and talk more about social media and hopefully some things you can do for the holidays as you're using it. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're talking about social media, and what you guys at home don't know is that in the breaks I get little tips and a little bit of coaching. I do have a question though. Is there a thing such as social media etiquette? What is it, and do people have it? I had a friend say to me, what do you do when someone keeps sending you a request to be a friend on Facebook, or they keep sending you invitations and stuff? You just ignore it? Is that the way to do it, or what is the etiquette?
Go ahead.
Specifically, I don't know if there's a fine rule.
There's no Emily Post book I can send
right.
to. Okay.
You do have to acknowledge your personal censorship, though, in everything that you're displaying on your Twitter and Facebook and those sort of things. Specifically what you're saying, and realize, yes, maybe your boss or your mother or somebody is going to be seeing it. As far as, accepting friend requests and that sort of thing, I don't know if there's a specific rule to it. If it's somebody that's hassling you and that sort of thing, there's various features within these various social networks.
Well, I mean, I know there's things you can do, but I mean, as a user, are there things that people should know in terms of etiquette and what's the right way to kind of conduct yourself?
I think when you first get into social media, it's like a 13-year-old boy trying to understand a 13-year-old girl. I mean, whoa, no understanding whatsoever what's going on over there.
A 40-year-old woman trying to understand.
I've been married 19 years, still trying to figure that one out. So there's this huge amount of etiquette, and the only way, really, in my opinion, to learn it is to surround yourself with good people and to dive in, and it takes time. So as an employer, flipping that around, why on earth would I hire somebody who's not on Facebook if this other person is on Facebook and understands the etiquette? I'm going to be far more profitable hiring a more talented person who understands the etiquette, because you can't rush it. But there's an awful lot of etiquette, in my humble opinion.
Well, that's a really good point, because I know all industries are changing, even our industry, and the more you can do, understanding these multi-platforms is really, really important. And so, it's almost kind of like you need it for professional growth, to climb that career ladder.
Jump in, go a little slow, like you said. Go a little slow, take your time.
When you talk about, I know, Ashley, you said that you found your niche, and that's important, because you try to do a lot of different things. Your message gets diluted, and so when you kind of focus in on what your company does, that's what you're not going to tweet about sports.
Yeah, not at all. I've tried before, and it did not come out right, not translate right, not at all. But yeah, definitely, I think that knowing your target audience, knowing your niche, and knowing those keywords. I have a large following that is involved with fashion enthusiasts, PR enthusiasts, social media enthusiasts, and it's because they pay attention to my day-to-day, what I'm doing on Twitter, what I'm doing on Facebook, and I think it makes it a lot easier to have that surrounding. In politics as well, like Dan said, it makes it easier to keep those conversations going and make it relevant, and we're kind of all learning from each other and bouncing ideas off each other. I have a little resource right there on my phone that I can refer to when I have questions or when I need information.
Well, I think that's interesting also, Crystal, you said because it goes beyond even people just you knowing people. It's who then in turn knows you.
Right, and it's amazing how, I'll give you a very funny example. I was attending an event about a month and a half ago, and you know, it was in a dark environment. It was actually a networking event, but it's kind of dark or whatever. And someone called now it was packed, someone called my name from behind me, and I turned around and they ran up and hugged me and said, "Crystal Washington, I'm your Facebook friend. I know that puff from anywhere," talking about my hair. And I thought to myself, wow, this is powerful. And I go so many places now with my husband, and people know me from Facebook. And so it's funny, you do have to, again, you have to manage your image, but it opens you up to so many opportunities.
There are a lot of people who do that. I get the I'm your Facebook friend. I mean, a different kind of things, and so it gives you the same almost kind of access to an audience. Quickly, Dan, is there something that you like, a kind of final thought you have about this? When you say new media addict, that's just funny to me. Okay.
Just voice your opinion. Voice everything that you want people to hear and know about you. Like I said, censor it, but really let it be from the heart.
Right.
And
be smart. I want to encourage
absolutely.
People to continue to use
be smart about
sense.
it, but like we've all said, start slow. Learn the platforms, learn how they work. Talk with people like us that are on Twitter and on Facebook, and learn from people that are seasoned users on there, as you said. But
seasoned veterans. Well, listen, one of the good things is this show will be online for a while, and we'll have links to each of your pages, so if they have questions, they can reach you. As always, thank you for joining me this morning. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to encourage you at home to follow me at Kim Davis, at Kim Y. Davis on Twitter. So do that. And thank you all for joining us, and thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to check out some of our previous shows or get information on today's show, you can log on to Click 2 Houston. And if there's something you'd like to check out, let me hear from you. You can reach me at kdavis@click2houston.com. That's kdavis@click2houston.com. You can also, of course, follow me on Facebook or on Twitter. And thanks for joining us. Have a great week. I'll see you next Sunday on Beyond the Headlines. The Sunday Morning News is next.